So, following on from last time, we're going to look at hiding and showing, specifically hiding and showing questions in a web determination or from a assessment summary screen. I'm going to start with a project very similar to the one we used in the last video. I'm not going to bore you by going through all the steps, but here are some simple reminders. I'm going to need a properties file because I want to put all my attributes in a properties file, and I'm going to generate public names for them. So I'm going to have the booleans in the property file as well. I'm going to create a screen file. Because of the nature of this demo, we're going to need to create a screen flow to show you an example of what we're trying to achieve. And finally, I'll create a Word document into which we're going to put several kinds of rule. Some of the rules will be procedural, like last time, and some of them will be used to define whether a question is visible or not during the interview. So the entity structure is similar to last time. I'm going to call it the family member this time. Let's call it the family member. And I'm going to have, I think, a sum total of 3 attributes to begin with. Specifically, I'm going to have the name of the family member, the age of the family member, and the family member's gender. And we're going to set up gender, just like we did last time, as a gender attribute for the family member. In my rules, in my Microsoft Word document, I'm going to have quite a few booleans, and to make it easier for you to follow, as I said a moment ago, I'm going to generate public names for everything and import those booleans so that they display in the properties file. So just finishing off with the first 3 attributes of my family member. All the rest will happen through the magic of Hollywood. Let's finish this. So now we're looking at a completed version. There we go. In the completed version, I have added some rules to the Word document, which we'll see in a moment, and I have generated public names for the booleans in those rules, which has caused them to display here in the properties file. We'll come back to them in a minute. But as you can see, they're very simple, involving questions that are gender related. There are a couple of global goals, which is the interview terminated? And I have also adjusted the relationship text for the containment relationship so that it's easier to read. Always think about readability and writability. So just a reminder, I use generate public names to create all of the rest of these, because in my Word document, which I'll show you here, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 Boolean attributes which are in my Word document. So that's why I've been able to add these using generate public names. If you're looking for a copy of this rule base, you can see the link at the bottom of the screen. Let's zoom in now and look at our rules. The first part, the procedural rules, if you like, these are the rules very similar to the rules we used in the last demonstration, just involving questions about whether you filled in a form. These next 2 rules are gender specific. Maternity questionnaire and sperm bank questionnaire. Apologies if that sounds sexist to you. It was simply for demonstration purposes. And then I have some shortcuts at the bottom to define what is a man or a woman. I'll compile those and we'll zoom back out and go back to the policy modeler. Now, because a lot of what we're trying to show would be defeated by the optimization process used by policy automation, I'm going to create a set of screens and force those screens to be displayed in a specific order, irrespective of whether the display is really necessary. In this first one is a simple entity instance collection screen. We're going to collect members of the family. We're going to ask them for their gender. To avoid bugs with the substitution, because the screen doesn't refresh, I've changed these last 2 to free text. In the second one, we have our gender-specific questions, both of them. Just a reminder, you can use substitution in screen titles as well. And in each of these questions, I am using a special attribute which we created a moment ago. The family member is a woman, and this is now going to be used as a visibility attribute. The visibility attribute, it must be a Boolean, and I've chosen similarly one for the question involving the sperm bank. You can also set a default state for when the value is unknown or uncertain, but the principle is simple. You have a Boolean which will control the display or not display of your question. So you can use this in many different ways. The final screen is actually a legacy from last time, is just has our family member completed the questions. In order to be able to demonstrate this process successfully and clearly, I've created two screen flows. I've created a global screen flow which begins with the customer entry screen and then calls a subflow. The subflow is based around the family member and has the other two screens in it. Each screen flow is based on one entity, so in this case I needed two screen flows and I needed to be able to call the family member screen flow as a subflow from the global. Finally, in the assessment summary screen, we've got our global goal and we have a link to the interview. The interview is not yet concluded is a caption which I've added for the unknown state of this attribute, and I've used a visibility attribute again, which will cause it to be hidden if it is unknown or uncertain. And we'll see what that actually gives to us when we build and run our web determination. Notice that the first line is invisible, it is hidden, but I can trigger my interview flow. I'm going to create a first family member, we'll call him Bob, and I will give him a gender of male and an age of 15. I will also add Janet. I will make Janet female and an age of 16 and submit. I'll work through to the final question about has they filled in all the questions, and you'll notice that for Bob the question about maternity leave doesn't apply and doesn't appear, and now for Janet similarly the sperm bank question doesn't appear. Let's click on the why and then let's click on the data review, and you'll see that in each instance the relevant question has been asked and the irrelevant question hasn't been asked. That's it. See you next time.